Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys should become patrons over on Patreon to support the channel, but you guys should subscribe, check out my social media, and all that stuff. So today we're going to be talking about a problem that I have with RTX and how to fix it. So it's not going to be an entirely negative video. I'm basically just proposing a solution to a very clear problem that the convention already has. So if you guys know, Hunter and I go to a lot of panels throughout the year, usually like 2 or 3. Right, in Toronto, and so we go to Fan Expo and Anime North, and I like to sit and sort of listen to people talk at the panel. Sometimes there are Q&As at the panel, so very, again, similar to sort of RTX. And basically at RTX last year, of course, I was like, well, these are some of my favorite people in the world. Of course, I want to sort of sit in panels and listen to them talk about their work and, like, just talk about other stuff and, you know, all that. But we found out very quickly, and I'm sure, like, people already knew this because people warned me. Like, people warned me a bit. Like, Cal, you're probably not gonna want to stay for the whole thing. And I was like, why not? But I love going to panels. And they were just like, just watch, right? And so last year, at the panel, Miles did his thing, like, no spoiler questions, no, like, long-winded stories, and please don't ask about Monty. And the first thing that someone did was go up to the mic and be like, so what was it like working on RWBY this year without Monty? And we were all just like, dude, like, I couldn't even remember, like, sort of the atmosphere in the room at that point. I don't think people booed them or anything, but there was definitely, like, a collective, like, groan a little bit, like, maybe. I'm not sure, I don't exactly remember, but I do remember that me and the group I was with, we basically stood up and we left. Right, and I'm sure that RTX, like, I'm sure that the people that run RTX know that this is a problem, because yes, there are people that just want to go see the trailer and then they want to leave, right? They have maybe they have other stuff to do, they want to go out to eat, they want to talk about it with their friends, and so they want to leave. It's whatever. But I'm sure that they have recognized at this point that with this particular convention, it seems, right, that people ask the worst questions and people do not want to stick around and listen to them, if that makes sense. And so I think it ruins the convention experience a little bit when you have people that already know that the question period is going to be so bad, and I don't want to say mismanaged because it's not really their fault, like, unless they ask every person, so what's your question going to be, and that person is honest about it, like, you know, they can't, like, there isn't a way to necessarily manage this any better, but there is an idea that I have, and we'll talk about that later. So it's not like a mismanagement, I'm not blaming the people that run the convention, but at the same time, they have to have figured out by now that people are so sort of adverse to staying that, like, because they think that the questions will be embarrassing or terrible or, you know, whatever, like, they just don't want to be there and they just leave. And so for me, as somebody that likes going to the panels and, like, listening to people talk at other conventions, the only time where I've had a cringy experience at Fan Expo where I had to listen to somebody's terrible question was at a RWBY panel. So the RWBY girls were here. And so I'm like, why is it just RWBY? And I'm sure it's not just RWBY. I'm sure this happens at a lot of conventions, but in my experience, it has only been at RTX and the RWBY panel at Fan Expo. So I'm like, what is wrong with us? Like, what do we do? I don't understand. Like, the fandom is cursed. No, I'm just sort of kidding. But yeah. At Fan Expo, when the RWBY girls were here, somebody did an impression and they asked the RWBY girls to guess. It was supposed to be John, apparently, but it sounded like Bugs Bunny or something, and so that's what Barbara guessed. And it was just a very awkward, terrible situation, cringy and embarrassing for the rest of us to be in. And so that's the only time in, like, 8 years or whatever, however long I've been going to Fan Expo, I don't know, that I can remember sort of a cringy question experience. But at RTX, there were at least 5 or 6 last year that I can clearly remember in my head. Like, and I don't understand why this is. I don't know. But I do have a solution for it. I do think, it's not just my solution, by the way, like, a bunch of us have talked about this, like, sort of in the Murder of Birds Discord and on Twitter, and so it's sort of like, I would say it's a community idea, it's a collective idea, but because, I don't want to be like, well, I have the platform, no. I'm just saying because I have the YouTube channel, right, I can sort of just put it out there and, like, you know, sort of gauge people's responses to see if this is a good idea, because maybe if RTX is like, or the people that obviously run RTX maybe could see this video or get it sent to them on the RTX Twitter account, I don't know, I'm just saying, but if they see my video and it has whatever views it does, and then it has, you know, comments with like, oh, if people like the system, if people have improvements of the system that we've sort of come up with and suggested, they can be like, oh, well, that seems like something the community wants. And I'm sure they know, like, they have to know that people don't, like, that people have this problem. But yeah, it's definitely sad for me, because that's my favorite part of any convention, is going to panels and hearing sort of people give insight about their work. But they can't give insight if the questions are bad and waste of time. And there was another one at RTX last year. And this isn't the question exactly, but it was about the most clear piece of canon information possible, I swear. Somebody asked something like, so will we ever get to see if Weiss or Blake has any siblings or something? And I was like, where did you come from? Do you even watch the show? Like, I don't even know. It wasn't that exactly, but it was something that was so clear in terms of canon information that it was, like, I don't know, it just hurt my brain. And so here's basically our idea, like, that we've sort of been talking about on Twitter and other places. But it's that RTX already has an app. And so I think that 2 hours or 3 hours before a panel starts, there should be sort of a submission process where you can write your own question and submit it, right? And so this could help with a couple things, right? If the question includes the word Monty, for example, or the word Vic, for example, because here's the thing, this is why I'm saying this now, is because somebody's going to ask about Vic, and somebody's going to make it terrible for the rest of us, because we don't want to hear that, right? Like, you know, it's just cringy and embarrassing to have to listen to. Like, and the response, like, and Miles is probably gonna say, or whoever at the panel is probably gonna say, hey, don't ask about that, but people are going to anyway, just like people ask about Monty even though they're told not to, or ask a million other things even though they're told not to, right? And so I feel like that's why I'm saying it now. But, you know, if they don't want people to ask about Monty, if they don't want people to ask about Vic, if they don't want people to sort of do something long-winded, what they can do is filter out words, right? Or just automatically delete questions that have a certain word in them. They could set a word count limit, and so your question can only be so many words long, so you can't have somebody telling a long-winded story, right? You could filter out other words, and then somebody would sort of look through the questions and pick the best ones. And so you guys may be like, okay, Cal, but there are a couple problems. No, they aren't. I'm gonna tell you why. Like, some people said, okay, but doesn't that mean anybody can just download the RTX app and just, you know, ask a question, like, even if they're not there? No, because in my mind, the app, I think, already does ask for your location, or at least it may have last year, because it did that sort of VR thing where you had to walk around, and obviously for that to work, I think it needed to know where you were. Basically what they did is that at certain locations, they had sort of these VR things, and you were supposed to, I don't know, do challenges with them, or maybe you were just supposed to find them, I'm not sure. And then, like, the prize was this teaser of, Chase, like, in his Genlock suit. So yeah, it was a teaser. I keep trying to say taser for some reason. That's not what it is. But yeah, it was a teaser of Chase in his armor, and that was the thing, right? And so if it asks for your location and you're from, like, you know, England or whatever, or, oh, this person's from Germany, clearly they're not at the convention, right? So if it asks for your location and you're literally in the convention hall or you're in Austin, like, I think that's good enough to stop people from, you know, doing bad things. And, like, people could download a VPN, I guess. If they're really gonna go through all the trouble, then, you know, let's see how good their question is, right? But it would still weed out the majority of people that understand, okay, well, I'm not there, so, like, this is a perk for people that are at RTX to be able to ask whatever they want within reason, right? Within the rules, as people should, to Miles, Carey, whoever, about, you know, the show and all that sort of stuff. And so that's the first thing. People would have that concern, like, but then, like, doesn't it remove the perk of being at RTX? No. So I think the other concern that people may have is that people want to ask questions sometimes, I think, in reference to the trailer that had just been shown, right? So last year, they showed the Adam short, then they did questions. And so some people may be like, but Cal, if they submit questions like 2 or 3 hours earlier, then they haven't seen it yet. And that would be for the first time, but remember, RTX has multiple Ruby panels, right? And not just multiple Ruby panels, but just multiple panels where Ruby is included. I think they showed the Adam trailer like 3 or 4 times last year, if I'm not mistaken. And so even if the first first time, like, the question app or whatever, like the RTX app, doesn't have any questions in reference to the trailer or whatever they show, like, that doesn't mean that in the next two panels, people won't be able to ask. Like, by then, people will have seen it and can ask questions about it if they want to. Obviously, the other concern people may have are, like, moderation. Obviously, somebody would have to pick these questions and then, like, ask them to Miles and Carrie. I don't know how many questions that there would be or the volume of those questions, but I feel like with a good filtration system and a couple people just sort of, you know, skimming through it and picking some good ones, like, I feel like that this could work. Another way, which I don't necessarily like because this could be taken advantage of, but after, maybe people could vote on the question. Like, if there is a moderation problem, like, if that's the biggest issue, maybe people could vote on the questions they want to hear the answer to most after, like, you know, the filter has sort of gotten out, like, questions with profanity or, like, questions with, like, that include Monty, for example, if they don't want that. Like, after that, the leftover questions maybe could be viewed by everyone and, like, people could sort of upvote which ones they want the answer to. That's only if, like, people are concerned about moderation. I don't know how many questions, like, people will ask, like, you know what I mean? I think that could also help, like, having a question limit, like, you only get to submit 2 questions, because a maximum, not everybody has a question. And, you know, if somebody does have, like, 2 questions, they can submit both separately and sort of send them on their way. And so basically what I'm saying is that a lot of the questions are going to be bad, like, if for the filter or whatever, and about things that they don't want to answer anyway, so that would cut those out. And then some of the other questions could just be, like, not great questions. And so then you'd have, like, the good ones sort of left over. And so I think that it would be possible to do, like, with just, you know, the people that are running the panel, like the RTX guardians or whatever, like, whoever's sort of in charge of it. I think it wouldn't be too hard to sort of go through all of them and moderate. Again, it depends on the volume of the questions, but I think the volume of the questions could sort of be, you know, capped and managed somehow, so it wouldn't be overwhelming. I kind of like the idea of the community, like, voting on questions, like, ooh, that's a good question, I want to hear them answer that. But at the same time, I feel like that would only be in the worst case scenario where it's like, okay, well, there are a lot of questions here, so we, you know, we sort of need, like, the community to sort of decide, like, this is my button clicking thing. And so here's why I think that this is a good idea. So now that I've gotten away some of the concerns, I'm sure there are more things that people are wondering about, but that's sort of like a comment section thing. This video is getting long. So in terms of why I think it's a good idea, again, it can filter out questions that are a waste of time. It can filter out questions that are embarrassing. It can filter out questions that will make people leave. If people start to see that the questions from the panel sort of, you know, get better, they'll stay for the entire thing. And I think that's what, like, that's what you'd want if you were sort of running a convention. You want people to enjoy that experience. I think it would improve the experience for a lot of people. I think the other thing too is that it would also sort of be a bit more inclusive for people that, like, have a disability and can't necessarily get to the mic, right? Because here's the thing, the other thing, getting to the mic is, like, it's not just at Fan Expo, they have people that carry around the mics, and then, like, people put their hands up and then somebody runs to you. But I'm pretty sure at RTX what they did is they had, like, 2 mic stands and they just had people like, they don't want people to run, obviously, but yeah, people run. And so if somebody's in a wheelchair or, like, on crutches or, like, you know, something like that, it's not like they can run to the mic or whatever, or beat, like, these, like, grown people or, like, grown men running to the microphone, right? I can't beat the grown men running to the microphone because I'm a 5'2" small girl, like, you know what I mean? And so for the disability part, that would be more inclusive. For people with anxiety, they may not necessarily want to go to the mic and ask questions, because, like, say that my question is, like, one of the best questions ever said at an RTX panel, but I have social anxiety and I don't want to go up and say it. If I submit it through the app, at least, you know, they have a chance of picking it, right? And so that would sort of eliminate that sort of anxiety, right? And I'm not saying to eliminate the mics, like, entirely. I think that people should be able to still ask, you know, questions through the microphone, but at least you know that you have a handful of good questions that could take up the entire time if you find the people with the microphone get a little rowdy. I think that also sort of people putting their hands up and, you know, somebody running around with the microphone like they do at Fan Expo is a good idea. As well, if they do want it, because it shouldn't be who gets there the fastest, right? It should, like, and I know that it may not seem like people putting their hands up and staying in their seats is any better, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I feel like the people that would be willing to trample over me just to ask their question may not have the best questions sometimes, or intention, you know what I'm saying? And so that's sort of my idea for that. And so obviously there would have to be some more that would go into this, if that makes sense. Like, it seems easy when you say it, but obviously I'm sure people will bring up in the comments, well, Cal, what about this? And I probably have an answer for it, but I just sort of wanted to get the basic idea out in a video, so hopefully someone can see it and rescue us, because God knows we need it. But yeah, that's basically it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this video wasn't too much of a downer. Like, I love RTX. I don't want, like, I'm not trying to be like, RTX is shit, here's how to fix it. Like, I'm not trying to be like that, but at the same time, this is a problem. Like, this is a problem a lot of us feel and experience, and I feel like that our idea should at least be heard and be considered. And I think there are ways, even in a physical setting, even if you didn't do it through the app, where you could have sort of, you know, a filter, right? Because obviously telling people don't ask about this isn't working. Like, it's just not working. And so whether you have people that run around with the microphone, but then ask people like what their questions will be first, and if somebody, like, unless somebody has like calculated this, unless somebody has a fake question, right, that they like recited and they're ready to tell to the person, but then they ask the real one and the real one's terrible, like, unless there's some sort of mastermind, if people are trying to get away with something and lie, and you're like, okay, so what are you gonna ask them? And they stutter and they don't seem to know because they were gonna ask something cringy, but now they know that they can't say that because the person like with the microphone has asked them before they can ask the question. You understand what I mean? And so I feel like there are ways to improve it. But that's it. That's all I want to talk about. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, you guys should become patrons over on Patreon to support the channel. And I will see you guys later. Bye. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you to all of our wonderful patrons and our YouTube membership members who have joined using the join button that is under this video or on my channel page. You guys may be wondering, what do patrons and YouTube membership members get? YouTube membership members for $5 get access to my Discord server, they get a bunch of cool emotes, and they get early access to all of my videos. $10 patrons on Patreon get early access that is more than a week in advance, so sometimes we do videos like weeks in advance or even a month in advance, and so they'll get those videos way earlier, right? And they also are able to make requests, and so if they want us to do a shipping video or a reaction to an anime or to cover some sort of theory or to discuss something, they can ask for it and we will do it. On Patreon, $5 is early access a week in advance and $1 is for the Discord server. I hope that that helps. Again, thank you to our wonderful patrons over on Patreon, and I hope that you guys will join up soon. I will see you guys later. Bye.